A surge of unpublicized deportations is reshaping Filipino communities across major U.S. cities, dismantling families and sowing apprehension in neighborhoods once seen as sanctuaries. These abrupt removals target long-term residents, caregivers, educators, and laborers who have woven themselves into the fabric of American life, often catching them unprepared. Fueled by workplace inspections, digital surveillance, and evolving regulations, Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) is employing cutting-edge methods to deport Filipinos at an unprecedented pace. This detailed examination highlights the 10 cities where these deportations are most acute, the intricate systems propelling them, and why Filipino immigrants face heightened risks in this growing crisis. But wait, before we begin, please subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my essential stuff. Comment, "I subscribe," below and I will personally welcome you to our community. With that said, let's get started. 10. Houston, a shift from opportunity to enforcement. Houston, long a destination for immigrants chasing economic prospects, has become a nerve center for unannounced deportations. Filipino workers in distribution centers, shipping yards, and medical facilities are disappearing rapidly, with families uprooted after a single encounter with ICE. Unlike earlier enforcement focused on visible operations, agents now delve into employment records, vehicle registrations, and digital job listings to pinpoint individuals. Many Filipinos affected entered on temporary visas, business or tourist, and remained due to economic necessity or travel restrictions during the pandemic. Routine interactions, like commuting in shared vehicles, now risk detention for minor documentation lapses. The city's infrastructure exacerbates the issue. Houston's healthcare providers, workforce agencies, and community programs have integrated with federal immigration systems, enabling ICE to access detailed records. This data sharing, strengthened in recent years, transforms innocuous interactions, like applying for aid, into potential deportation triggers. The Filipino community, integral to Houston's economy, now navigates a landscape of eroded confidence, with many shunning essential services to avoid detection. Why Filipinos? Enforcement officials reportedly prioritize Filipinos for their cooperative nature, viewing them as straightforward cases that meet deportation targets efficiently. Their prominence in logistics and healthcare, combined with a history of temporary visa use, amplifies their exposure. In Houston, a clerical error in a decades-old record can now jeopardize a family's stability, reshaping entire communities. Chicago, discrete removals with lasting impact. In Chicago, deportations begin quietly. A notice in the mail, an ambiguous call, then absence. Filipino enclaves in areas like Albany Park and Uptown, established for generations, are dwindling as families are removed without fanfare. These low-profile operations, driven by lapsed academic visas, delayed asylum applications, or employment record mismatches, evade public scrutiny but unravel community networks. Public services, health clinics, housing programs, and emergency aid have adopted rigorous identity checks, with information quietly relayed to immigration authorities. A simple act, like seeking medical assistance, can now initiate a removal process if a record contains an inconsistency. Chicago's sanctuary city status, once a shield, has weakened under federal mandates to link local databases with ICE systems. This shift, accelerated by recent policy changes, has turned community resources into liabilities. The Filipino population, heavily represented in education and service sectors, is particularly susceptible due to their reliance on transitional visas, many of which expired amid bureaucratic backlogs or economic hardship. Why Filipinos? Their minimal resistance and constrained access to legal support make deportations efficient and low cost. Their lack of criminal records streamlines cases, as they appear uncomplicated to process. In Chicago, discretion is not protection. It's a vulnerability exploited by a system increasingly reliant on digital enforcement. Number 8. Los Angeles, progressive ideals undercut by federal reach. Los Angeles, heralded as a sanctuary city, is struggling to safeguard its Filipino residents from federal enforcement. In cultural hubs like historic Filipino Town and Echo Park, ICE agents employ covert surveillance, often masked as routine municipal checks. These efforts swiftly escalate into detentions, disrupting lives. A federal directive to resolve immigration court delays, intensified in 2025, has spurred a deportation wave, revisiting long-pending asylum requests and visa applications. Filipinos awaiting legal status, some for over a decade, now face sudden rejections and deportation orders with little recourse. Federal data integration undermines LA's protective policies. Municipal systems managing public health, welfare, and employment share information with ICE, exposing Filipinos who engage with these services. The city's history of embracing Filipino immigrants, from early 20th century farm workers to modern professionals, makes this enforcement surge a stark betrayal, as communities once celebrated now face systematic displacement. Why Filipinos? Their clean records and language skills simplify deportation processes, favoring quantity over fairness. Their prevalence in caregiving and hospitality roles, coupled with intricate visa histories, heightens their visibility. In Los Angeles, federal priorities have transformed a progressive stronghold into a conduit for quiet removals. Number 7. New York City. Community life under threat. In New York City, Filipino communities in Queens and Jersey City are retreating from public life, wary of gathering openly. ICE agents have been observed at cultural celebrations, religious gatherings, and local businesses, detaining individuals during everyday activities. Many deportees were pursuing legal pathways, green card petitions, or family-based visas, but bureaucratic delays or minor errors rendered them defenseless. Homeland Security's experimental programs, utilizing facial recognition to monitor visa overstays, have intensified oversight, with urban cameras and transit systems flagging Filipinos in service-oriented jobs. New York's role as an immigration hub, coupled with its dense surveillance network, makes it a laboratory for enforcement innovations. The Filipino community, a cornerstone of the city's diversity since the early 20th century, now faces a reality where cultural engagement, a source of pride, heightens risk. Local protections are increasingly overshadowed by federal initiatives, leaving neighborhoods subdued. Why Filipinos? Their visibility at public events and reliance on urban infrastructure make them traceable through surveillance. In NYC, deportations prioritize systemic efficiency over community impact, turning vibrant spaces into liabilities for Filipino residents. 6. San Francisco. Municipal systems turn hazardous. San Francisco's deportations often stem from routine municipal interactions, such as housing disputes or community complaints. Filipinos in shared rentals or informal housing are at risk, as property managers report issues to authorities, with records feeding into federal immigration systems. Once identified, ICE intervenes, escalating minor grievances into deportations. City programs, including housing subsidies and social services, now share data with federal authorities, exposing Filipinos who depend on these resources. Even small infractions like a utility dispute can trigger immigration scrutiny. The city's housing shortage and gentrification amplify these risks, as Filipino families, often in multi-generational setups, leave extensive digital records through leases or aid applications. San Francisco's sanctuary legacy, forged in the 1980s, is strained by federal demands for data integration, undermining trust in a city once seen as a refuge. Why Filipinos? Their engagement with municipal services and complex housing arrangements create traceable data trails. Their compliance, a survival tactic, now marks them as manageable targets. In San Francisco, the boundary between civic life and deportation has eroded, challenging the city's progressive identity. 5. Dallas. Essential workers in the crosshairs. Dallas, a hub for Filipino healthcare professionals, is grappling with deportations targeting nurses, caregivers, and medical staff. A recent federal audit of healthcare employment uncovered visa irregularities, particularly among those on expired temporary permits or misled by unreliable agencies. ICE agents monitor medical facilities, and routine compliance checks now flag minor discrepancies in contracts or credentials, leading to rapid removals. The city's healthcare system, dependent on Filipino labor, faces disruptions as deportations exacerbate staffing shortages. Dallas's history of attracting Filipino professionals, especially post-1965, contrasts sharply with this enforcement wave. Hospitals and care facilities, under pressure to align with federal regulations, share employee data with ICE, inadvertently exposing workers. The Filipino community, once lauded for its contributions, now contends with a climate of caution, with many avoiding career mobility to evade scrutiny. Why Filipinos? Their dominance in healthcare and reliance on temporary visas make them conspicuous. Their contributions, vital to Dallas's infrastructure, are overshadowed by enforcement priorities, punishing systemic oversights rather than rewarding service. 4. San Diego. Border innovations disrupt lives. San Diego, a border city with a vibrant Filipino population, is witnessing families disrupted by stringent enforcement. Mixed-status households, where some members lack legal documentation, are targeted, regardless of U.S. citizen dependence. Deportations are often sparked by stalled visa applications or clerical errors, with no opportunity for correction. As a border enforcement hub, San Diego pioneers tools like mobile immigration courts, biometric scans, and real-time data systems, identifying Filipinos swiftly after minor infractions. The city's naval and immigrant heritage, coupled with its proximity to Mexico, amplifies its role in deportation testing. Local agencies, including those handling traffic and public services, share data with ICE, exposing Filipinos who interact with these systems. The Filipino community, a cultural mainstay, now faces a reality where administrative errors carry irreversible consequences. Why Filipinos? Their low-profile presence and border proximity make them suitable for trialing new enforcement methods. Their intricate visa histories, often tied to family reunification, increase susceptibility. In San Diego, deportations signal a redefinition of immigration control, with Filipino families at the forefront. 3. Phoenix. Sacred spaces violated in Phoenix. Religious institutions that once sheltered Filipino families are now targets of ICE raids. These operations detain individuals with pending humanitarian claims or temporary protections, exploiting Arizona's recent policy reversals. State laws shifted in 2025 permit warrantless entries into places of worship for immigration violations, dismantling decades of sanctuary traditions. The raids, conducted discreetly, have chilled community participation, with many Filipinos withdrawing from religious and social activities. Phoenix's contentious immigration history, marked by restrictive policies in the 2000s, has evolved into a new phase of federal-state collaboration. Religious organizations, once pillars of resistance, are now vulnerabilities as local authorities share records with ICE. The Filipino community, reliant on faith-based networks, is retreating, leaving neighborhoods fragmented. Why Filipinos? Their dependence on religious support systems made them identifiable when legal options diminished. Their compliance in sanctuary settings facilitates removals. In Phoenix, the violation of sacred spaces underscores a broader erosion of immigrant safeguards. 2. Miami. Maritime workers ensnared. Miami's Filipino port and cruise workers, essential to the city's tourism sector, are vanishing amid a federal crackdown on employment documentation. Probes into staffing agencies revealed fraudulent permits implicating both legal and undocumented workers in sweeping enforcement actions. A minor record discrepancy, often due to agency errors, can now prompt deportation, disrupting communities in portside areas. The crackdown, framed as combating fraud, has disproportionately targeted Filipinos due to their prevalence in maritime roles. Miami's dependence on Filipino labor, rooted in post-war maritime migrations, makes this enforcement surge disruptive. Port employers, compelled to comply with federal audits, share workforce data with ICE, exposing entire crews. The Filipino community, a vital economic force, now faces economic instability and social disconnection. Why Filipinos? Their concentration in maritime jobs and reliance on temporary contracts heighten their visibility. Their exposure to third-party agencies increases documentation risks. In Miami, occupational roles eclipse contributions, driving widespread removals. 1. Washington, D.C. Policy trials take hold. Washington, D.C., as the nation's policy hub, is a proving ground for innovative immigration measures, with Filipino communities facing the initial impact. Hundreds of families have been deported recently, ensnared by retroactive cancellations of protections like temporary protected status or other temporary measures. Previously approved visas are now scrutinized, transforming lawful residency into violations. The capital's role in shaping national policy means Filipino immigrants encounter experimental enforcement strategies before they spread elsewhere. DC's Filipino population, tied to diplomatic and professional migrations, navigates a maze of shifting regulations. Local systems managing employment and public benefits are increasingly linked to ICE, exposing residents who engage with them. The community, once optimistic about legal pathways, now contends with a landscape of uncertainty as neighborhoods grow quieter. Why Filipinos? Their compliance and presence in professional sectors make them suitable for testing rigorous policies. Their complex visa histories, often linked to sponsorships, amplify risks. In DC, deportations are policy trials, with Filipino communities as early subjects.